Moving to this now, the Ngabinde inquiry has flagged inconsistencies in the way the NPA handles investigations. NPA boss Shamila Batoy has been testifying at the commission, which is looking into South Gauteng Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office. Now, Chauke is currently on suspension.
It is weird to me that when a decision and advice is given in respect of one matter, the NPA seem not to have a problem. When it happens in relation to another matter, in this instance, the Mdluli's matter, and Advocate Chauke allegedly goes against the decision of the team, then there seem to be an issue about that. There seem to be some inconsistencies in the relation to the way the NPA is treating these matters.
Chairperson, that is a very important observation. And I would say that the inconsistency is not the way in which it's being dealt with now, but it's the way in which Advocate Chauke approached these two matters. That is where the inconsistency lies.
The Special Investigating Unit says it has successfully recovered more than 13.5 million rand from Tembisa Hospital employee Zacharia Tshisele. Tshisele was arrested on corruption charges following an SIU probe into widespread procurement irregularities at the facility. The SIU says he allegedly received unlawful payments from service providers between 2020 and 2023. The case was referred to the NPA and the Hawks earlier this year. The wider SIU investigation uncovered more than 122 million rand in corrupt payments involving at least 15 current and former Gauteng Health officials who are linked to corruption, collusion and bid rigging. Let's get reaction right now. SIU spokesperson Kaizer Kganyago joins us for an update. Mr. Kganyago, good to have you on the program this evening. So the SIU confirming this evening that the arrest of Mr. Zacharia Tshisele. Tell us more. Can you explain what specific evidence links him to unlawful gratification from service providers at Tembisa Hospital?
Thank you very much, Lanhla, and thank you to your viewers. You'll remember that when we did the preliminary report, we indicated that when we were following the money, we were able to see that all the service providers that were, or most of them, that were working at Tembisa Hospital gave gratification to officials. And at that time, we were talking about 13 officials who were given an amount of about 122 million rand. Therefore, Mr. Tshisele was one of them, and he knows that we knew that he was given that money because we were able to trace it to him, but we also were able to trace the fact that he still had some of that money in his bank account or in his investments. Then he voluntarily came to us and said, no, I want to bring back this money because I got it in a manner that is not right. And then they gave it to us in a tranche of 2 payments, and that amounted to just over 13.5 million rand. Therefore, we thought at the time that maybe he's turning a corner and then he will be able to assist. But then we got to know, because we knew at the time that the Hawks are investigating this matter. We had made the reference to the Hawks and the NPA some time back, and they were investigating. Now he tried to bribe a Hawks official with 100,000 rand. Therefore, that is how he was then arrested. Therefore, we are then saying it's a good thing that this has happened, and we have recovered the money from him.
Mr. Kganyago, looking at your statement, you mentioned that the total value of corrupt payments linked to Tembisa Hospital and the Gauteng Health Department amounts to just over 122 million rand. Let's speak about this. How far along is the SIU in recovering the remainder of these funds?
Yeah, this is the 122 million rand is just the money that was given to officials.
I see.
The 16 officials or so. This is how much money they were given. Therefore, what we are calling on the others to bring back that money. But even if they don't, we are going, because the investigation is still going on, we are going to go after all of that money. We know who got what, and we know what they would have bought with that money. And then the rest of the money is the 2 billion that we are talking about. You've seen, we've started the process of recovering by freezing the things that belong to Maumela, and then we are going to go after all of them to make sure that this money is returned, all of it, about the 2 billion rand that we are talking about.
From what we're reading, at least 15 officials have been implicated so far. Are there indications that even senior management or higher level provincial officials could be added to the list, especially as this investigation widens? You've just told us that the investigation does continue.
No, it's possible that something like that can happen, because at the moment, what we could confirm is the junior officials that were there, and then we are now asking questions going forward to say who did what or who did not do what in the process, because this is not only people in Tembisa, it's also implicating people in the Department of Health, in the Provincial Department of Health. Therefore, we'll just have to look all over across the border on who about the board, who is involved, and we hopeful that this number is going to increase from the 16 that you are talking about to a bigger number.
So as we continue to reflect, Mr. Kganyago, and given the scale of corruption uncovered so far, does the SIU then believe that procurement systems at Tembisa Hospital were deliberately compromised, or were these failures due to just poor internal controls?
Yeah, no, this is a human error, a human factor, not error, a human factor. There was nothing wrong with the procurement system. These guys used the 3-code system that is allowed by law to get 3 codes when the amount of pay of the transaction is below 500,000. But they did so many transactions of less than 500,000 where they got 3 codes, but they would then use the codes from their friends or from companies that belong to the same people, so that they are able to then guarantee the fact that this thing will get to them ultimately. Therefore, it was human beings who were just greedy and wanted to beat the system. Therefore, there's nothing wrong with the system itself.
Mr. Kganyago, the public often worries about corruption cases stall, especially once they reach the criminal justice system. What assurances can you give or provide that the SIU's referrals to the NPA and also the DPCI will indeed result in successful prosecutions? Are you confident?
We can only be confident that something like that will happen. But obviously, the rate at which it is happening is concerning. Like any other organization, we are concerned. But we are monitoring that. There are processes that are being put in place. SCOPA is monitoring it on a continuous basis. Presidency is monitoring. We've got a monitoring mechanism that is created for all the referrals of the SIU so that they can be done. Therefore, all of those mechanisms are put in place to make sure. But obviously, with the reason why we go to court, no one goes to court with the view that I will always win. There might be this or that happens, but we're hoping that we'll get to the bottom of it, and all of these people will then be arrested and then be put behind bars so that they can make sure that they pay for whatever they've done, especially in a case like Tembisa Hospital, where the ordinary people suffers. There are people who died because of these transactions that they did unlawfully, and they were not delivering the services. Therefore, it is important that the law take its course, and we are hopeful that that will happen.
At this point, can you confirm whether any of the implicated service providers have been blacklisted or even face a possible litigation to recover state losses?
Yeah, we are taking up the syndicates for the recovery of the money. The blacklisting is an administrative function. All that we do from our side, we then recommend that the companies be blacklisted, and then that matter has to be taken up by government and ultimately end up with the Department of, with Treasury. Therefore, that will be dealt with that way, and we hope that it will also happen because those referrals were also done.
And lastly, what measures does the SIU, what do you recommend to prevent a repeat, especially of such large-scale corruption at Tembisa Hospital, but also within the Gauteng Health Department?
Yeah, we at the end of every investigation, we give what we call systemic recommendations. We look at the systems and we look at the loopholes of what really happened, and then we are able to then do analysis of what happened and ultimately give them the indication, so that we do not want to come back here and face a similar circumstance. Therefore, they must close all the loopholes, because the other question, for example, that we're asking is, how was the payment done when the budget was not available? Therefore, it means we must close up these gaps, but also do a lot of proactive action, like lifestyle audits of officials and so on, so that we are able to know that we have got people that are credible, that are working for you.
Time and time again, Mr. Kganyago, we hear of how whistleblowers are being encouraged to also come out and give information relating to corruption at state institutions. Maybe give us your own reflections as we wrap as well, speaking to the role of whistleblowers.
Yeah, we cannot do what we do, Nhlanhla, without whistleblowers. But the whistleblowers needs to be guaranteed that they will be protected. And as far as we are concerned as the SIU, we have never had an incident where whistleblowers are then killed or whatever. People always made reference to Babita Diokoran. She was giving us information as the SIU based on what of her job as the acting CFO at the time. And therefore, we are in a position to then be to say that we will continue to protect the whistleblowers. We will make sure that everything is done to guarantee them their safety. And then we will then make sure that at the end of it all, we'll work with the Department of Justice. We are creating legislation around protection of whistleblowers and make sure that ultimately we have the best legislation that will protect whistleblowers.
Mr. Kaizer Kganyago, thank you so much for your time, giving us his perspective and also some updates on investigations they're running. The SIU saying it has successfully recovered more than 13.5 million rand. This from Tembisa Hospital, this from an employee at the institution, Zacharia Tshisele. We bring you more news and updates at the top of the hour.